Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to our EQM Rental Management Software, Everything You Need in One Simple Solution webinar. My name is Michael Introvertolo. I am the Accounts and Marketing Manager over here at Solution Systems. If you take a quick look at the bottom of the screen, you will see our Twitter handle, which is @solution_systems. I'd recommend following us as we'll be posting more throughout the day and weeks concerning EQM Rental Management Software. Today, we are very fortunate to have Ray Boone and Moses de los Santos. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, guys. Nice. They are with us from Armada Dynamics, and they're going to be primarily conducting this interview. So let me go ahead and pass this on over to Moses. Moses, we'll get started.
Okay, great. Well, good morning, everyone, or good afternoon now. My name is Moses de los Santos. I am with Armada Dynamics, and I am the Managing Director for the U.S. Let's get right into it. I'm going to be going through about, a dozen or so slides real quick. We won't kill you with PowerPoint, and then we're going to go right into our product demo. So let's get started. So as we got into this business of the rental business, I'm assuming most of you have a rental component to your business. That's why you are watching this. We noticed there's a lot of typical questions that we were asked. There are issues that keep people up at night. They need to know in a rental enterprise, where is your equipment at any one moment or any one time? Do you know where your most profitable piece of gear is? What's the cost associating and depreciation of an asset? Are you able to go from a quote to a contract to signing an invoice to actually creating an invoice for a customer? Do you know which piece of equipment needs maintenance? These are things that we hear all the time. Being able to track maintenance is a big issue in a rental enterprise. And then being able to determine the metrics of, whether I should buy or lease more equipment that's getting used more. So, and then many issues associated around cost and operational costs of a business. Some of the pains that we have seen in a rental equipment management environment are, they want to know where your object or your asset is and how available is it. Which location is it, for example? Is it in my location in Houston, or do I actually have it in Chicago right now in a more distributed environment? There's a lot of lack of information that we've seen in a rental enterprise concerning cost of objects and how much it costs me to actually operate it. How profitable is a specific asset or object, and then how to utilize this? Am I using this particular asset? Is it being rented 80% of the time or 8% of the time? So those kinds of metrics of economical and physical utilization are key, and we hear it all the time as pain points. And then things like invoicing and pricing. We have been in this business for probably over 15 years, and no one that we know does pricing in the exact same way. You can be in the exact same vertical rental, and you can price things very differently than the guy next to you. So what do we solve? Well, we're able to track and manage unique objects and bulk items. We provide you with advanced availability calendars. You're going to see that. Ray's going to show you that in a little bit. Pricing and discounts. As I mentioned earlier, pricing is one of the keyest, most critical components in a rental enterprise. How you price, is it after 3 days? Is it a week? After 3 weeks, you charge for a month? All those types of scenarios, very complex scenarios, we handle, and we handle them very, very well. Again, whether you have multiple rental locations, being able to do revenue splits. For example, if you're sub-renting from a specific shop, how do you split the revenue from a specific department? We can manage that. Then being able to handle advanced deliveries in return. And then, as I mentioned earlier, maintenance and what we call workshop maintenance, one of the most critical factors. A lot of times, assets need to be maintained, for example, after so many hours or after so many miles, or based on specific certification needs that you need to have for an asset to be ready to be put back out. We've solved that. You also can manage things like deposit management, planned services, combining invoices is really critical. Sometimes you don't get 100,000 lines printed on an invoice, relocation journals, and then being able to track your fixed asset integration is critical. As I mentioned earlier, contracts and utilization. So I'm going to start kind of at the end, which is kind of a results-oriented, more like a reporting. This is a dashboard using BMI metrics index to Microsoft. So you can see some of the key performance indicators through this tool. And because of our software, you're able to utilize the tools such as this, where you're able to track, if you're an executive and you want an executive dashboard, you're able to track utilization of days, revenue, and physical assets. It's a very, very powerful tool. And all this is made possible, these next 3 reports, because of our back-end system that we're integrated with completely within Microsoft Navision. Okay? So sales dashboards, equipment dashboard, where you can just very quickly, if I'm an executive dashboard and I want to be able to see the utilizations by day, type, and equipment and month, I can do all that because of our EQM rental management solution. And then if you're a sales guy or you have a sales team out there, you maybe want to be able to look at opportunities by revenue, by month, or even by location, right? So let's talk about the rental industries that we serve. By the way, if you don't see your specific rental industry here, we probably can handle it. Don't get thrown off too much. These are just some of the ones that we have seen and see all over and over again. Event and party rentals, lift, heavy equipment, small equipment, shoring and scaffolding, fencing is another big one. Medical devices, we're doing quite a bit of growth in that area. Mobile containers and buildings, trucks, trailers, all in the energy sector is another very, very big one that's growing a lot, specifically in the past. Now it's kind of slowed down a little bit because of just how the oil industry is. But these are just some of the areas that we have implemented solutions, and there are a lot more that I'm not even mentioning today. So if you're familiar with standard financial reporting such as Microsoft Navision, the general ledger and accounting, great, because our solution is completely integrated. The EQM Rental Management Solution, it's a completely integrated solution to Microsoft Navision. We're also a Microsoft certified product. There's only a handful of those that are worldwide. We're one of them. That means we adhere to very strict Microsoft coding standards, and also we're matched up whenever Microsoft Navision changes version. Right now we're on version 2016, which is the latest version of Microsoft NAV. Other people haven't even done 2015 yet. So we're ready to go. So the solution is composed of 3 major parts. I'm not going to read through all of these, but excuse me one second. 3 major parts: equipment management, rental management, and service maintenance management. And through any of these, of course, in the rental management, you can also sell. So it's not just being able to rent, but you can also sell an asset and equipment. I'm not going to read all these, but you can see there's 3 major components to our solution. And as we look at an integrated platform, you're able to track an asset, okay, what we call objects, as a unit, as a type, or as a group. So if you have a group called, let's call it subcompact cars, the object type, object group might be Volvos or types, and then you can go all the way down to the specific serialized number of that unit. Okay, went a little bit faster. I want to really be able to give Ray the time to be able to go through the software itself. So Ray, should I give you control now, or?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, let's do that right now. Ray, do you have it okay?
Let's see, I'm still seeing your screen.
Okay.
I can try.
There we go. I'm showing my screen now. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. We're going to go ahead and dive right into the software. You probably recognize the standard NAV Role Center page. This is a specialized one that we've developed for Rental Manager. There's also some other customized role centers for some of the other jobs, whether it be Equipment Manager or Service Manager. As Moses stated before, the solution is divided. The major divisions are the rental management for contracts, quotes, rental terms, where you do your deliveries, your invoicing, your credit memos, the equipment management part, which is where you take care of defining the technical things about your particular pieces of equipment. Details like their prices, their counters, schedule maintenance, and the handling of buying or re-renting equipment. And then the service management, which is the labor and parts costs of maintaining equipment, and including either on-demand or scheduled maintenance. So I'm going to go on to a rental contract through rental management, but we can do that going back to our work role center. Sorry for today, looks like there's a little bit of lag in updating my screen. There we go. So we're going to go ahead to look at examples of rental contracts. So let's do this. All right. There we go. Okay, so here's our list of contracts. I'm going to go ahead and go down to a particular one. Now the contract is the center for the activity that happens between that happens during the rental process, whether it's sending equipment out, or returning it, or doing our invoicing, or checking on our details. Okay. Okay, so here's our contract here. Our header looks very much like a normal sales document. And then in our lines, you will see the types, and the one that will be new is the object. And objects are unique, usually serialized items that you're sending out for rental, you're not selling, and they are detailed enough that you want to keep track of the various statistics on them. Both their, how much they cost to buy, what's their maintenance cost, and also their individual revenue that they're bringing in. Now, we also allow the rental and the sale of the regular Navision items, things that are in the item ledger, for things like chairs or anything that are more bulk items that are not going to be identified with a serial number, but you still rent them out and they don't actually leave your inventory just because you send them out. And we also have resources, which is generally used for charging of services, transportation, labor of setup, any other kind of service charge. We also have where we have kits that we can rent, which are collections of items and objects, and we'll talk a little bit more of those when we get to equipment maintenance. And we also have one where it says type object, which means I can go ahead and write up a contract for a type of item, like a pillar lift, without knowing exactly which one I'm going to send out, which one's going to be available in the future. But I can go ahead and write it up just by giving it the type that will be sent out in the future. You probably noticed on the items that the color, like we have entry status, which is shipped, which means that these things have been delivered to the customer site. And as we go through the whole rent, return, invoice process, both the color and the statuses will change, and you'll see those. You can also see that we have a separate on rent, off rent, return, and start rental period dates. And what these allow is that we can put equipment, stage it so that we can deliver it on site ahead of when the actual rental period starts. And it also allows us to return equipment, to take equipment off rent even if it hasn't been returned yet, which is usually going to be the case of you have an arrangement with a client and they've said, okay, we've stopped using it on Tuesday, but it really works best for you to come pick it up on Wednesday. So we can keep track of those dates separately to keep your rent along with your rent schedule, along with your transportation schedule. We can also do hourly rent if we don't do daily. And of course, in our price terms, they can be set up to a day, hour, so you can set any of the price terms up that you want to, and you'll usually have several. All right, and I want to show you, if we go into the, let's see, as far as where, to answer the question of where our equipment is in any particular time, we can go back to, let's see, I'm going to take a step back here and show that our availability calendar. So we have the object type availability calendar. I'm going to bring that up. And what it does is it gives you a kind of a graphical way and a way to drill down to show what you have in stock, or if it's not in stock, where is it at right now. Let me bring that up. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say I'm going to pick a particular start date. I'm going to view it by day. I want to show reservations. At this point, I don't want to filter it by location. I want to go ahead and see what my overall inventory availability is. So I'm going to let that run there. Okay, so here we have basically our types of object. We have, in this first line, we have 42 of them in inventory and 5 of them are available right now. We can also click, if we want to drill down, we click on the numbers there. It gives us another menu here that says, well, I want to drill down on my unique objects to see where they're at, or if I know that, okay, I need to create, I have someone calling in and they would like a contract for an excavator, I can just go straight to creating a new contract, and we'll look at contracts here shortly. Right now what I want to do is I want to look at the available objects. So I'm going to see, okay, of my 42 excavators, what are they actually doing right now? Oh. Okay, there it goes. It's kind of interesting. I notice I get a little bit extra lag when I go on GoToMeeting lately. Okay. So here, these are the unique pieces of equipment. They're all of this type. Over here is the locations that they're currently at. I have a rental status, which tells me if they're available, rented. They also might be on maintenance or out for service. And the colors here tell me that these particular ones are on hire. They're actually on a contract right now. And then this one is still, it's available because it's still at the location, but there is a reservation for it. So this is the availability calendar gives you a graphical view to look down and drill and see either where your equipment is and what status it's in, and also where, you know, when it's going to be available, maybe coming back off service. And also a quick way to go in and start looking to start a contract once you know that you have availability in a particular location. All right, we'll pull our contract back up. All right, so if we take a look at the contract again, you'll also notice, as Moses alluded to, as far as our ability to handle different pricing schemes. So if we go down, if we look over here, as I highlight this particular object, you will see prices. So this goes into the regular Navision pricing scheme. It follows that same standard so that we can set rules about based on dates, clients, pieces of equipment, types of pieces of equipment, maybe even specific pieces of equipment, and give their rules about pricing on here. So let's see, is this one picks up? Okay. Okay, so you see if you're familiar with the sales price windows, this will look pretty familiar. So in this, basically what this said was I've got two prices that could apply to this calendar, one available to the specific customer, one available to all customers, and it's by day. But we can also say, you know, that we use Stair codes, which will come in for Stair step pricing, which I'll show you. Your dates for beginning and ending maybe particular programs. Also minimum rental period. If you have items that you rent, but there's a 2 or 3 day minimum, it will also handle that here. And also if there's things that you rent in bulk like chairs, tables, scaffolding, there's also a minimum. You can set up your prices with minimum quantities. All right, let's see. We can also, when we're also talking about the Stair price codes, I'm going to go ahead and do a look up here so that you can define as many different Stair price schemes that you would like to, and also there's a lot of variations of the Stair prices. So we bring this one up. We can use okay. So in these, you can see we have a principle, which is stepwise, which says, you know, for 2 days, use this price, then after that, use this price, and go on, and then after 15, then after this is an order, and then every day after that, it's $100. We can also do defined periods, which then says, okay, after a day, charge this, after a week, charge this, and after a month, charge this, and it uses the standard division time shortcuts. So we can also go and say that we also have periods which we can also separately define. So as you can get very granular on how exactly you would like to use your stair-step pricing, whichever way works for you. And it doesn't require any customization or program. It's pretty flexible. All right. So if now shipment and delivery, just let me go back to my contract here. All right. Now shipment and delivery, as we've noticed that these lines are already shipped. To handle the different kinds of sizes and organizations, some small equipment rental companies, they'll deal over a counter, over a pickup, and people will be leaving with the items right after they pay for the contract. Other ones are more sophisticated, so we actually have a balance of 2 ways of handling shipping and collections. One, you'll see like a ship all button and a return all button. And that basically says, what's on the contract, let's go ahead and ship it out and show that it's been delivered. We can, and when that happens, it creates, oops, wrong button, I need to post the deliveries. So it will actually post a document and lines in Navision showing that things have been delivered, and it updates the contract line. So you can always come back to the contract line and see a summary of the things that have been delivered and returned. So let me close that one because I don't want that one. All right. Then if we go to actions for larger organizations, maybe you have your own delivery trucks, maybe you have your own larger warehouse organizations, we have dispatch. So we can create pick orders and we can create shipment orders, which are their own documents. Your pick order will be for your warehouse staff, probably loading the truck or at least pulling things out for particular orders, and then shipment, which is for your actual delivery. So it works just like a shipment, a regular shipment order in Navision. So if we, all right, and it's very much the same for collections. I can either do return all, or I can say create a collection order to show, I can show that in the future. I can also take things off of rent, and let's see. So we're gonna do gonna go here for dispatch. No, I want to look at existing collection order that I have. So the collection order is also the front end for some of the other functionality. So let me, as soon as that pulls up, take a look at this particular collection order. And it is interesting. This is a three-tiered solution. I'm running all three off of my laptop, and generally performance is really good when I'm working, but I do seem to have lag whenever I join a GoToMeeting. Okay, so here is a collection order, and here you can see the collection address of where we're picking it up from and the quantities that have been shipped. And then here we update it with the quantities we're going to collect to return back to stock. We may have a situation where not everything's coming back. Some of it may be lost. And from this screen, we can turn it into a cell, basically to invoice the customer for whatever did not make it back. We can also use a quantity to damage, which says it's coming back, but we're going to need to create a workshop order for it. And also, again, we can change how many we're taking off rent and exactly what's coming off rent and what's actually being returned, so we can manipulate those dates. We can also flag that we need something is going to be in a maintenance status whenever it comes back, which is say, don't ship it back. It's available, but don't ship it back out again. And if we can also immediately create, it's called the damage order, but it's also a workshop order. We can go ahead and create that now so that people will know that this is going to require some service. You'll also see the counter on delivery versus the counter on returns, and we'll talk about counters a little bit more in the equipment management section, but you can track things like fuel usage, miles, hours, or even actions to keep track, and you can associate charges based on your counters also. If you have something that's you charge more for overuse, say you charge rental by the day, but the assumption is that it's no more than 12 hours a day. So if someone keeps it for 3 days and runs it 24 hours a week, you can record that on the counters, and then the system will handle extra charges for you. Okay. All right. This is also, so let me close our collection order here. Now, during the invoicing process, what we have the original contract, and then we have create a rental order, and that can either be basically a sales order or sales invoice, depending on how you want to set it up. And it will use the invoice information that is here in the lines, and also we have a thing called invoice sequence, which you can set up schemes about how bills are made. Like this one's billing in arrears, and this one's billing the month. And I'll show you some details on that, because we can actually give more choices and more flexibility around how the billing cycle works. So click on that one, just to kind of drill down in the invoice sequence area. All right, so I'm going to edit this one, because what we can do is we can set up rules for what happens first. In this particular one, I can say for my first month, I want to bill in advance, and then after that I want to bill in arrears. So let this window come up here. There we go. So in this one, this is my first month. Whenever they're leaving my counter, I'm going to charge them in advance. After that, charge them in arrears. I have other options that I can set up, charge them at half month, month end, and I can keep adding these if I have a lot of special rules, and whichever the last one is the one that will be continued until the contract is finished. So like I said, a lot of flexibility for handling both pricing and billing. All right, let's see. Now after we create, I'll show you. All right. And then as we're in the invoicing process, again, the status will show the status of order, which means that I have an unposted invoice that's that has been created, and it also changes the color to make sure that that is plain. And I want to look at that rental order. Okay, which is actually the beginning of kind of your customer-facing document. It is basically for the one billing period. What are they being billed for? The details and the explanation. Okay, so we can see the lines refer to our contract, our contact. It'll give us the periods that it was rented for, the rental days. If you have a rental calendar that allows that weekends are free or holidays are free, it'll also show how many free rental days they received because of just how the rental period fell on the calendar. And it'll give them the line amount for basically your rental days versus whatever your effective daily rate was. And then if this looks good, you would post it. And I'm just going to show you what that looks like whenever it's posted. Okay, so this one, our lines have changed back to blue to show that there's not an unposted order out there waiting for it, that it has been posted and now it's ready for the next month as the next invoice date has moved forward. Also, our resource for our transportation, that line is now closed because it's not going to be reoccurring. Then we can look, if we navigate, we can look at our posted documents, look at our posted rental invoice. So here the posted documents keep track of every posted document that's related to this particular contract, whether it's shipments, deposits, deliveries, something that's just off rent, or credit memos. Okay. So let's use this one. And this is the customer-facing document. Of course, it's how it's actually printed is based on a Navision report, which everyone customizes those also. So just to kind of give you an idea of what the stock one looks like, we'll go ahead and preview this one. This afternoon it just seems to be a little slow on my refreshing my screen here. I apologize for the delay. Okay, so it shows the same information, but of course people will always update this for their particular needs. So let me close out of here. All right, and that is kind of a basis of walkthrough of how the rental management works, to kind of walk through how the equipment management is done. Let's see. I want to start from another contract. Let's get that out of the way there. And take a look at our particular types of equipment and how it's integrated with NAV and how we set up things so that definitions are set up and then they're defaulted as we create new types and new items. So let me do this contract right here. Okay. One of the things that we can also offer is, along with objects, we can have accessories that go with those objects. They can be just, disposable parts. They can be options. They can be inventory, or they can be other objects that go with their pieces of equipment. Okay. Okay, and as you see, we make full use of the NAV fact boxes. I'm going to use one here to drill on this particular type. It's an air compressor that comes with accessories, or has the option for accessories. Let's see. Okay, So this is an object type card. So it tells us of a kind of object it is that we then create the unique objects for that are rented. But what this does is it allows us to define a lot of defaults that then go down to a new object whenever it is purchased and put out there for rental. Okay. All right. Here we go. So this one, being an air compressor, the accessories are set as components, and they can be different size: hoses, tools, manifolds. If it's a disposable item, we can set it as a rental sale, saying that we don't expect to get that back. That's just a consumable. Also, level of aspiration, which means is this particular component, is it optional? We can also give it recommended, or we can give it required, as well as a quantity. This allows you to do some guided selling so that you don't miss opportunities to upsell or to include more accessories, and are also to verify that you are not sending it out when it needs other equipment to make it usable. Let's see. If we go down here, we also see our rental tab, which gives us, so we can dedicate a base calendar to an object type. We can also do the rental split whenever, as Moses discussed, if you have something that's between two offices and you need to split the revenue between them. You can also set what's the standard term, whether it's going to be rented by the day. We can also set up a default functional testing, which is on the service side, which allows you to create a workshop, basically a workshop order for a test to make sure that something functions if you have more sophisticated equipment. We also have this is where you set up mandatory counters. So if you, and it's to enforce that you're collecting the information when something comes back in. Here we set up for the fixed asset integration. We can set up all the fixed asset rules so that whenever we buy this piece of equipment for rental, a Navision Dynamics NAV fixed asset card is created using all the standard functionality. And also pieces of equipment can be given more technical information. So in this case, I can say this air compressor has a 50-gallon tank and a 3-horsepower motor, which can be useful whenever you're trying to analyze and run reports on different equipment based on their capabilities. We also have other cylinder volume and measure. Here are your counters. So when the system will look for these particular counters when you have them set up, and they can be mileage, hours, actions, which is how many times something may have been used, and then the rental hours. And you can set up two different counters to collect information from both of them. All right, let's see. All right. Now that information, whenever you create when you have a card for something that goes into inventory, that thing will get it's called an object card. And the information will be inherited from its group and its type, but it can be overridden if you have something that's unique or follows some slightly more specific rules. So I'm going to drill down on the object card here. Now for this particular piece of equipment, you can see that we track different statuses as far as still updating there. And also, whether you're from the type or from the object card itself, you can take a look at the utilization. So here we'll take a quick look to see at what this. So on this one, we've got the statuses for its inventory, it's rented or not, and its ownership status. Because we can have things that are owned for our own use, we don't intend to rent out, lease to hire, other ones. An interesting one is external. We could have objects that we don't actually own ourselves. We may have service agreements with customers and which we may maintain their equipment, but we don't actually own it. So we have an ownership status of external for that. Okay. Again, we have the inherited items, and if something under the technical side, and if it is a fixed asset, we have a link to the fixed asset card in standard NAV, so that your object card can be used for your physical operational needs, and the fixed asset card stays the financial object that it is for running depreciation, increasing or decreasing book value after overhauls, and disposal. And when you sell an object, the integration will take care of your disposal on the fixed asset side also. Okay, that's over here. Again, in our fact box, you'll see that we do track utilization here, and this one does, this particular example object doesn't have a lot of utilization, but what we can do is go to the equipment utilization, which is a report that runs, it looks at your rental activity, and it'll show you both physically and financially what your utilization for a particular period of time was. And it can be for your groups, it can be for your types, or it can be for particular pieces of individual pieces of equipment. So let it come on up. All right, and what I'll do here is I'll say I don't want to filter it by a specific piece of equipment. So we'll run that to get the results of that report. Okay, so on this one, this report will take a look at your period based on the equipment of its rental days, its rental calendar, how many possible days you had, how many times and it was actually rented. It'll give you a percentage for the physical utilization of it, and will also say, okay, what was your possible amount of money that you could have made from it, and how much did you make? And then it'll find out, what was my discount? Did I have to offer a discount off the price to get a higher level of utilization? So we do get a utilization report that's basically physically and financially, how is this piece of equipment doing? And you can use this. In this case, these are particular pieces of equipment, but you can also run it by type. So you can say, okay, my electrical compressors on frame, how do they compare to my other types of equipment that I'm renting? Okay, let's, all right. I'm going to show you that we also do rental kits, which are usually collections of items that you rent out in one kit. So it's very popular in scaffolding and event rentals. So let me go here. Okay, so you see our line type of kit rental here. It's a scaffolding kit. I can look at what my rental kit components are. And we can make the decision on our kits if the price is based on the elements of the kit, or if we give a special price for the entire kit. And while this is refreshing, there we go. Okay, so we can set a price priority. We can set a posting priority, which says when do we want to list these items individually versus when do we just want to handle them as a particular kit. We can also say that whenever we're shipping and receiving them, we just want to deal with the kit. I don't necessarily want to count every quantity here. But if we do want to do that, we can also handle it during the returns process so that we can charge the customer, if necessary, for anything that was lost. Okay. Now, okay, so that's our equipment management. If we take a look at our service management, so let's see. We can set up sorry, closed one too many screens there. Also in our equipment types, we can set up the scheduled maintenance rules, and their maintenance can be done on either dates or it can be done off your counters. So if you need to do it after perform a standard maintenance after particular hours or particular mileage, the system will keep track of those counters and then let you know whenever something is up for service again. So let me go through. Contract owner. Okay. So let's, in interest of time, what I'll do is I'll just go straight to the service module. Okay. So under our tasks here, we have Service Proposals Journal, and what it does is it goes through all of the rules that we've set up for each of the objects about when their scheduled maintenance should take place, and it will suggest creating work orders for those. And I'm going to drill down into a work order here. You'll notice that it says internal service customer. We have the option when we're creating these work orders to either list a customer, external customer, usually the one on the contract, but it doesn't have to be. It can be any customer. And we can also set up internal service customers whenever it's our own maintenance. So it's going to look pretty familiar as a NAV sales document, and we can handle taking items out of our own inventory, charging labor through resources, and if we have to buy external parts, we can also have we can have lines that go straight to GL expense accounts. So that, close that. And it also tracks the status of whether the work order is waiting on parts or whether it's ready to go. And it being integrated with the list of available equipment, it'll also update the status there, whether something's out for service or it's in internal maintenance. Okay. Okay, so keep track of our statuses. Okay, well, that is our 3 sections. We kept pretty close to an hour. Thank you very much, and please let me know if you have any questions.
Thanks, Ray, for that very informative hands-on demonstration. Truly appreciate it. Also want to thank Moses for presenting his information as well. If anybody has any questions, you can see our contact info on the screen. If I or Solution Systems cannot answer any questions, we will get in touch with Ray or Moses and definitely be able to answer your questions. So thanks everybody for attending. Once again, thanks Ray and Moses, and everybody have a great day.
All right, thank you.
Thank you all.